Lu Yin swept his gaze across the crowd. No need for formalities. I know you're all curious as to why I suddenly called for a court meeting. It's actually very simple. 2 days ago, I suddenly saw a spaceship on fire. Slowly, Lu Yin explained the situation to her. Inside the court, the ministers were deep in thought. Some of them were panicking. Your Highness, there are countless habitable planets in the Empire, and there are too many people. We are doing our best to count them all, one of the ministers respectfully replied. Lu Yin calmly replied, the Great Yu Empire has only recently unified Frostwave Weave, and I know that it's impossible to complete everything. However, there are some things that must be done as soon as possible. The population of all the planets that belong to the Great Yu Empire must be counted, and there must not be any more cases of deaths not being recorded. You said that you're doing your best, so how long will that take? The minister hesitated for a moment. At least 20 years. Lu Yin frowned. 20 years is too slow. Those people were abandoned because they weren't recorded by the Empire. If you were the one who went missing, Zenustar would probably be shaken. The minister was shocked and he hurriedly knelt down. I wouldn't dare. Please forgive me, Your Highness. Lu Yin waved a hand. Get up. I don't blame you. I've already said that the Empire has only unified Frostwave Weave for a short period of time, so it's normal for some things not to be done yet. However, the matter of counting the population must be resolved as soon as possible. Report the manpower and resources you need and I'll satisfy you. However, you must also count the population as soon as possible. Yes, Your Highness. The minister relaxed and wiped the sweat from his forehead. Also, Lu Yin's gaze turned cold. Find out who was the one who abandoned those people. Which boss was so ruthless that he didn't care about the lives of tens of thousands of people? Aside from them, there must be many other places in the Empire that have done the same thing. Investigate all of them, and anyone who has done such a thing will be charged with murder. Yes, Your Highness, the ministers hurriedly replied. Lu Yin was satisfied. That's the first matter. The second matter is that someone said that taxes have increased after I took office, but I don't seem to have seen any of those taxes. Minister of Finance Gavin hurriedly stepped forward. Your Highness, I swear on my life that there was no increase in taxes. All taxes are still collected according to what His Majesty, Undying Yushan, collected during his reign. Lu Yin's gaze turned cold. Is that so? Then someone is using my name to collect taxes. Investigate and kill whoever you find. I won't show any mercy. Yes, Your Highness. Gavin relaxed. The third matter is that I need to ensure that everyone in the Empire receives medical treatment, lives, employment, and so on. Lu Yin said a lot in one breath. The rescue team must also be reformed. We must not allow those people to eat the Empire's food for no reason. Quick, increase the temperature. There's definitely something good behind the door, someone said excitedly. Everyone else was excited, as the abundance of star energy meant that there were definitely treasures behind the door. Even Lan Si was looking forward to it, as the mystery behind the door was too attractive. Lu Yin had used a heaven flame stone to burn star essence, which produced an abundance of star energy that flowed out through the crack in the door. This caused the people outside to misunderstand. Even if the door did not continue to open, did they still have some motivation? Immediately, quite a few people threw in high-temperature items in an attempt to open the door. Elder, he had been here before. As an emissary in the Outerverse who was second only to Master Yuan, no one had noticed his arrival. After observing for a while, he determined that this was not some Guyu inheritance, as the architectural style was too different from the era that Guyu had lived in. Although the universe was grand and there were many strange architectural styles, he recognized this architectural style. It was the Rune Technology civilization. He recognized the pupils that had turned into runes on the door at first glance. After recognizing that this was the Rune Technology civilization ruins, Elder, he left without a second thought. His understanding of the Rune Technology civilization was one of the reasons why he had to leave. It was a brilliant and terrifying civilization, and anyone who came into contact with that civilization might vanish at any time. Even an emissary like him did not want to come into contact with that civilization. Whether it was in the open or in the dark, countless people had come and gone. Soon another month passed. The crowd had been burning outside the door for a full 2 months, but it still did not open. Many people's hearts sank as they had really tried their best. They had even taken out a high-temperature flame seed that could attract the attention of an emissary, but they still could not open the door. Although they were disheartened, their expectations for what was behind the door grew. The harder it was to open, the more it proved that there was something behind it. This was common knowledge. If the crowd had been 90% suspicious of the Guyu ruins 2 months ago, they were only 40% suspicious now. Only a powerhouse like the Guyu could have built such a powerful door, and even the door was so difficult to enter. This showed just how precious the inheritance was. Welcome aboard. Stay tuned and subscribe to Han Li's Wuxia Adventures for more thrilling content. Chapter 947. The names of the 10 arbiters had spread throughout the innerverse and outerverse, and everyone knew about them. However, no one knew exactly how powerful the 10 arbiters were. Kuyun and the others had originally believed that the 10 arbiters could intimidate the younger generation, but not them. Now they clearly understood that the 10 arbiters' power level was truly heaven-defying. A hunter was enough to render enlighters like them powerless. The old woman was a good example. She had exchanged blows with Lan Si and was easily injured. However, she did not dare to make a move. She was afraid because she had felt Lan Si's invincible strength. Why is Lan Si of the 10 arbiters helping the Great Eastern Alliance? Ghost Wuzong could not help but ask. Lan Si's gaze swept across the crowd. I owe Lu Yin a favor and now I'm returning it to him. Gui Wuzong barked. You and Lu Yin are enemies, not friends. Now that you've dealt with the Great Eastern Alliance, Lu Yin is like a rootless duckweed that you can do whatever you want to him. Lan Si was cold and arrogant. The view of an ant. Gui Wuzong was furious, but he dared not say anything else. Kuyun stared at Lan Si vigilantly, as this kid was too powerful. Even if Lan Si could defeat the old woman, he would not be able to do so in a short amount of time. After all, they were both enlighters, and in terms of power level, Kuyun was tens of thousands of times weaker than the old woman. However, Lan Si had been able to heavily injure the old woman with a single palm strike. His strength was unfathomable. Lan Si looked back at Mu Nikhang. Tell Lu Yin that I've repaid the favor I owe him. Mu Nikhang and the others were still staring at him blankly when a voice rang out. You want to return it? It won't be that easy. Mu Nikhang, Meng Tianlong and the rest were ecstatic, but Gui Wuzong and the rest were overwhelmed with shock and disbelief. This was Lu Yin's voice. Lu Yin had arrived a long time ago, but he had sensed Lan Si's presence. He didn't know what Lan Si was up to, so he hadn't made a move. Lan Si and the others had been able to escape to the outerverse because they owed him a favor. Lu Yin had assumed that Lan Si would not care about this favor, but he had never expected that one of the 10 arbiters would remember it. He must have heard about the Central Weaves Alliance's plot and hurried over to return the favor. Lu Yin's battle with Lance was merely a battle between a glory child and one of the 10 arbiters. There was no grudge between the two of them. Friendship was friendship and competition was competition. However, he couldn't return the favor so easily. Lan Si looked at Lu Yin in astonishment, as he hadn't even noticed that this person had arrived. It was rare for someone to be able to conceal their aura to such an extent. Lu Yin didn't care about the others and calmly looked at Lan Si. What, do you want to return the favor so easily? Lan Si calmly replied, I can return it. Lu Yin's lips curled up as he glanced at Gui Wuzong and the others. You want to steal my kill? Lan Si's eyes narrowed. If you snatch it, it'll be mine. Of the 403 people in the Great Mountain Dojo, I'll return 403 people to you. There are more than 400 enemies here. You can try. There were close to 1,000 people from the Great Eastern Alliance and the Central Weaves allied forces present, and they could all tell that Lan Si wanted to capture 403 people from the Central Weaves allied forces to repay Lu Yin's favor. They were the so-called heads. Gui Wuzong and the others felt humiliated, but they were also filled with fear. Run. As soon as the order was given, the allied forces from the Central Weaves fled in all directions. With Master Yuan's strength, it was unlikely that the two imprinters would survive a direct attack with a power level of 500,000. This was the strength of a cosmic imprinter, let alone one with a power level of 700,000. The battlefield fell silent as everyone stared at Lu Yin in shock. He had killed 2 imprinters with a single attack. Countless people's hearts sank, not just the Sixth Mainland's cultivators, but also those from the outerverse. They only had one thought: Lu Yin had evolved. When Lu Yin had been a Lemiter, he had relied on external items to kill enlighters, earning him the title of Enlighter Killer. Now that he had evolved, he could rely on external items to kill imprinters with the strength of a cruiser. He was becoming more and more abnormal. No one could understand Lu Yin's heartache. That was a power vessel that Master Yuan had given to him as compensation for the blood-colored bell, and it contained a power level of 700,000. With this power vessel he could go anywhere he wanted, and he could easily take it out to intimidate black-masked assassins with foresight. Now it was gone. He couldn't help but look behind him. The Hall of Honor had to record this achievement, and if possible he wanted to obtain another one. The arrow had disappeared. It might have disappeared along with the spatial crack, or it might have been turned to dust by the 700,000 power level attack. The Hall of Taimo had inherited 3 arrows. One had been taken by Yan Qing during the border war, and its whereabouts were unknown. Now only one was left, and it was in Lu Yin's possession. In the distance Gong Ling sighed. He knew that he would not be able to retrieve the arrow the moment he had shot it out, but he still had to do what he had to do. No one had expected Lu Yin to kill 2 imprinters and change the situation of the battle. Not only was Astral 9's D not at a disadvantage against the other imprinter of the eyeless tribe, but he was actually slightly stronger. This battle could be won. Baidu searching 81 Chinese Networko. No advertisement. Although these creatures were large, most of them only had the strength of a cruiser. At most, they could obstruct the 6th Mainland's line of sight, but they could only do so for a single second. The Eyeless Clan's imprinter dragged out another Astral River creature. Lu Yin used the secret art to throw out a super flash. He did not know if this tear bomb would work, but he was just testing it out. In the end, it was still useless. This weapon might be useful against enlighters as it could temporarily blind them, but it was completely useless against imprinters, especially those from the Eyeless Clan. Many people looked at Lu Yin strangely. He was from the Eyeless Clan, which meant that he did not have any eyes at all. Why was he using a super flash? A tear bomb? Wasn't that just stupid? Lu Yin felt awkward as he was already used to throwing these things. Soon, the 6th Mainland's cultivators had escaped to a place close to the Innerverse. The Eyeless Clan's imprinter was desperately defending the rear of the group, and he forcefully withstood the attacks of Astral 9's headmaster and Elder He. He had managed to hold on, but the enlighters behind him who had joined forces to block the envoy's attacks had not been able to hold on. They had all died, including Tong family's Elder Yuan and some of the Eyeless Clan's experts. If both sides continued to fight, then the 6th Mainland's 2 great families would definitely not be able to compare to the Outerverse, and they would not even have as many enlighters. When they saw that the 6th Mainland had suffered heavy losses, the Outerverse cultivators became even more agitated, and their battle cries shook the sky. Lu Yin felt the same way. This was the first time that they had held such an advantage against the 6th Mainland. If they did not destroy these 2 great families, then they would be letting down Master Yuan's arrow. Suddenly Lu Yin stopped and looked down in shock. Even Ancestor Eyeless and Master Yuan had suppressed their power levels the moment they entered the Innerverse. At this moment, it was a competition of numbers. The scales tilted once again, and this time, it was pressing down on the 6th Mainland. This was especially so when a group of experts from a weaponsmithing family leapt out from the transport team. Elder He looked at Astral 9's headmaster helplessly. Let's retreat. They're a weaponsmithing family, and they're even stronger than the Tong family and the Eyeless family. As long as we guard the other side of the Astral River, Master Yuan can restore it. Astral 9's headmaster was unwilling, but he had no choice. Retreat. When the 6th Mainland's cultivators saw that the Outerverse cultivators wanted to retreat, how could they possibly agree? They all chased after the Outerverse cultivators in an attempt to stop them. The Eyeless imprinter even risked serious injuries to block the Astral River, as he could not allow the Outerverse cultivators to escape. As long as they could eliminate this group, then even if the Outerverse powerhouse who could rival the Cosmic Imprinter won, he would still have no subordinates to use, and the Outerverse resources could still be plundered. In the distance, a group of experts from a weaponsmithing family rushed out from the transport team. The orders they had received had not been to actually fight the Outerverse cultivators, but rather to scare them away. They could not afford to lose the resources they were transporting, as this was related to how the 3 filaments would divide the benefits when they attacked the Innerverse. Even the weaponsmithing families did not want any accidents to happen at this juncture. They only wanted to transport the resources back to the 6th Mainland before returning to figure out the situation. However, the Realmling Toolwielder wanted to capture one person, and that person was Wendy Yushan. When he had first seen Wendy Yushan in the ruins of the Daosaur sect, he had been attracted to her. He had never expected that she would be someone from the 5th Mainland, which was even better since he could capture her and bring her back. In the void, Ancestor Eyeless appeared, still holding on to the Tong family's ancestor. At this moment, the Tong family's ancestor's injuries had recovered slightly, but he would not be able to fight for a while. What had injured him had been the arrow progenitor's item, and it had not been an ordinary method. On the other side, Master Yuan appeared with a solemn expression. In the inner verse, the astronomical phenomenon had been suppressed, and no matter how strong he was, he would not be able to display his full strength. His advantage had been completely wiped out, and the enemy had actually sent a group of experts to reinforce him. He did not know that the weaponsmithing families were just trying to scare them away, and he wanted to retreat. On the other side, Ancestor Eyeless could tell what Master Yuan was thinking. He tossed the Tong family's ancestor onto the transport team and then joined his hands together. A formless halo gradually expanded, and in an instant, it enveloped all of the participants at the Astral River's border. Ancestor Eyeless had not used his innate gift all this time, but it was not the right time. Now it was time. Master Yuan's expression changed, and he immediately attacked Ancestor Eyeless. However, it was still too late. As the halo moved, everyone was transferred to the transport team, and they were now far away from the Astral River's border. Ancestor Eyeless' innate gift allowed him to instantly transfer everyone and everything within the halo to a place that he could see. Actually, it was not very useful for someone of his level of strength, as a single step would allow him to traverse the universe. The range of his vision was too narrow, but at this moment, his innate gift was extremely useful.